So good evening, everyone. My name is John Troutwine, and along with my wonderful and lovely wife, Susie, we founded the Will to Live Foundation about 7.5 years ago after the suicide death of our 15-year-old son, Will, who you saw on the video there. We had no idea that Will was struggling in any way, shape, or form. We thought he was perfect. He was happy, he was strong, he was successful in every walk of life. And if someone would have told me that Will suffered from depression, not only would I have been immediately offended and very upset, I would have gone and talked Will out of it, because that's what I thought depression was. I thought it was a character flaw. I thought it was a choice. I thought it was something that someone just doesn't understand, and I'm a good salesman, and I'll show my son that life is good and he should be happy. But I was unaware. And after Will died, I learned very, very quickly what depression really is and how prevalent it is. And the fact that every single person in this room knows a lot of people with depression is something that I was unaware of. And because I was unaware of it, I lost my son. And Susie lost her son. And our lives will never be the same as a result. And we wanted to form a foundation that made people a bit more aware, to spread this awareness of mental illness and depression and teen suicide in America. But we wanted to do it in a positive way, and at Will's funeral, so many of my friends were there. So many of my friends are here, and you guys picked me up, and you picked Susie up, and you carried us through. And friends from my middle school and elementary school and high school days in Chicago, my baseball teammates at Northwestern and in the minor leagues, they were there for me. They had traveled thousands of miles. My life friends and my life teammates delivered hope. And that's how we started the foundation. We were going to get these kids to recognize that they have already met life's best friends as a teenager. They've already met their groomsmen. They've already met the godfathers of their kids. And if I can get them to recognize that, and I can get them to deliver hope to each other, then I can increase their will to live, and Will would be proud of me. Well, 8 years later, I'm so awestruck by what we've been able to accomplish. And these kids, these teens, have raised over $1 million to put right back into this community to help raise this awareness and raise this education and deliver hope. And we started to partner with Summit Counseling because we were successful in getting kids to talk. And they were starting to say, hey, I need help. And they were calling me, and their parents were calling me, and I needed a place to send them. And it hit me so hard that time was not healing my pain. Love was healing my pain. And when I went and met the wonderful people at Summit Counseling, I could see the love. I could see it in their eyes. I could see it in the way they approached every single person they met. And I said, this is the place where I'm going to start sending people to. And over the years, I've sent hundreds of families just torn by the fact that their kids are not okay. And the Summit Counseling has helped them to realize that maybe it's okay to not be okay. And we started to partner more, and they said, hey, we want to have our counselors, our trained therapists at the high schools where you're speaking, John, and you're getting these kids to talk. We're going to give them a place to go. And I said, yes, let's do that. And all of this money that these kids raise gets right back into the community. And when we educate the teachers and the trusted adults in their kids' lives, and we help fund the Summit on-site program, and these kids have a place to go. And money raised by the kids is being put in the community to educate the adults, to help improve the lives of the kids. And it's become this circle of hope. And it's so inspiring for me and for Susie and for the members of Will to Live to see this. And it's so gratifying to know that these kids and their families are being treated with true love. because we need these kids to understand that there really is good in their lives. And sometimes you really need a friend to show it. And I have fun with some of the examples. I had the wonderful opportunity to play baseball for a long time. I spent 7 years after college in pro ball. If you Google me, you're going to be disappointed I wasn't that good. I looked good, but I wasn't that good. And I spent 6.5 years in the minor leagues, and then I spent one really fun summer with the Red Sox in Boston. And while I was in Boston, there was at my third game, I'm pitching against the Oakland A's. It's 1988, and Mark McGwire is the hitter. He was very skinny at the time. And it was my third game, and before that, I had pitched twice. It's early in the season. I'd pitched twice and done really well. I'm thinking, okay, I got this. Well, Mark McGwire proceeded to hit a ball that went over the green monster in left field. It went over the screen above the green monster, and then on the other side of the screen is a street where all the bars are, where people go after the game. It went over the street, it went over the bars, and they're still debating on whether it actually ever came down. But if it did come down, it landed on the Massachusetts Turnpike. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to and looking at the guy who gave up the longest home run in the history of Fenway Park. Thank you. So the very next day, I have lunch with one of my high school buddies, one of my teenage life teammates, who is in Boston on business. Remember, I grew up in Chicago, so he's in. And we're at lunch, and guess what? I am not happy. It was the play of the game on ESPN. They showed it 1,000 times that night. My dad's calling me, what the pitch was that you threw, right? And everybody's mad at me, and I'm just so upset. And my buddy says to me, John, is it safe to say that when you were a kid, you dreamed about striking somebody out in the big leagues? And I'm like, what? He says, you heard me. I said, yes. He goes, John, you did that last night. I was in the stands in Fenway Park, and I saw my best friend, who I used to play catch with when we were 6, get his very first major league strikeout. I'm in the stands, so happy for you, John, that I was crying. A dream had come true. You know what I said to him? I did? I had no idea. I was so obsessed with the negative of giving up a moonshot to Mark McGwire pre-steroids that I missed a childhood dream. By the way, I stopped playing baseball when I was 29 years old. I started when I was 4. That's a lot of baseball. That's a lot of memories. I find it very interesting that the only memory I ever talk about my baseball career was that night. And the worst moment of my baseball career is the only one that I ever talk about. Isn't that interesting some 30 years later? But most importantly, it took a friend to help me find the good in something that was so bad. And I wish Will would have been able to not have that stigma, to not be behind that mask, to talk to a friend and say, hey, I'm struggling. Because his friends would have shown him the good that exists in his life, and there was so much good. And I think that's the message that we all want to take from this. I'm proud to be here. I'm so proud to be partnered with the Summit Counseling. And we have a lot of good work ahead of us to do. Terry, thank you for coming here tonight. You're going to give us such credibility in this message and helping us to remove this stigma. I know we already had a blessing, but what we teach the kids to do is we're trying to encourage them to be able to say, I love you. And so we end our blessings at home every night like this. And I want every single person in this room to turn to the person next to you and say, I love you, man. Thank you, everyone. Love you, man.